Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new mini-series of A to Z of frequent mitzvahs. And we're going to be looking at for the next few weeks the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos, the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos lights, or it's often translated as lighting Shabbos candles, and trying to understand a little bit more about the backgrounds to the mitzvah and some of the relevant halachas as to how we perform this mitzvah. I followed the normal format in which I've muted everyone, but please feel free to unmute yourselves if you wish to ask questions or to post questions via the chat function. And what I'd like to do is like to start off with a little introduction, trying to understand the background to the mitzvah and the nature of this obligation to light Shabbat candles. After which we'll try and look at some of the halachas, both common scenarios, in other words, how to do the mitzvah in the normal, typical manner, and then some of the more complicated scenarios, such as if one is eating out on Shabbos or Friday night rather, or not staying at home, and how one fulfills the mitzvah in the optimal manner in that situation. So first of all, what is the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos? Where does it come from? Why do we do it? And the answer is it is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. It is a rabbinic mitzvah, but the mitzvah is based in essence on Torah obligations. Now, beyond the obligation to keep Shabbos, Zocher es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei, and Shomer es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei, to guard and remember Shabbos. Guarding Shabbos meaning protecting it from damage, from transgressing it. In other words, avoiding doing the acts which are forbidden on Shabbos. And Zocher es Yom HaShabbos, remembering the Shabbos, or more accurately, mentioning Shabbos, which we discussed when we learned Halachos of Havdalah, and mentioned Kiddush also, the mitzvah to declare Shabbos holy, which we do both at the beginning of Shabbos through Kiddush and at the end of Shabbos for Havdalah. There are, in addition, two further mitzvahs. The mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos, treating Shabbos with kavod, with respect, with a weightiness. Kavod literally means kaved, heavy. With a weightiness, with a respect means to understand something has a weightiness and it's substantial and significant. And the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos, of Shabbos being a pleasant day and having pleasure on Shabbos. And these are mitzvahs which, whilst not specified in the Torah, are clearly delineated in the words of the Nevi'im, the prophets who speak about the mitzvah of Kavod and Oneg Shabbos. And therefore, even though the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos, of lighting Shabbos candles, is rabbinic in the sense of this specific application and obligation to do so is Drabanan, it's founded upon a method of fulfilling Kavod and Oneg Shabbos. And therefore such, there's three reasons found for lighting Shabbos candles. And these three reasons are not identical halachically. They each have their own identity and format. The first reason is because of the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos. It adds to the kavod and honor of Shabbos to have lights lighting up the room. One lights with extra lights brightly a hall or a palace or a banqueting suite, and therefore having brightly burning lights, extra lights lit in honor of Shabbos. This is a way of bringing kavod, honor to Shabbos. That's reason number one. Reason number two is for the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos, to enjoy Shabbos. We wish to enjoy ourselves, particularly when eating the Seudas Shabbos, the Seudah, the meal of Shabbos. Being able to see the food enhances the Oneg, the enjoyment of Shabbos. And therefore there's a mitzvah to ensure that where one eats, the room is lit up. Hence the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos. There's a mitzvah to eat a Seudah on Shabbos. And this is an additional enhancement of the Seudah, an additional layer to the mitzvah of oneg Shabbos, and therefore lighting Shabbos candles is a part of the mitzvah of oneg Shabbos. Now, we will see later that obviously in today's brightly lit world where electric lights are all over the place, the halachic application of the mitzvah needs to be understood. But nonetheless, for now, we're just trying to understand the foundation of the mitzvah. And therefore, there are two reasons so far to light the Shabbos lights. The first reason is because of the mitzvah of covered Shabbos, to bring honor to Shabbos by having the room well lit up. And the second mitzvah is oneg Shabbos, in order to make Shabbos an enjoyable experience. As I mentioned, both of these reasons are in essence not rabbinic, but really made divrei hanavim, from the words of the prophets, because the concept of oneg and covered Shabbos are really found in the Nevi'im, in the words of the prophets already. The third reason for lighting Shabbos candles is more strictly speaking a pure d'Rabbanan. Of course, the value expressed behind it is Torah law, and this is for the sake of Shalom Bias, Shalom Bias, having peace and harmony in the home. If the laws of Shabbos mean that one is unable to see where one is going because one can't light a light on Shabbos, and one therefore falls and trips over furniture and hurts oneself, this won't be a harmonious home setting. And therefore, for the mitzvah of Shalom Bias, peace and harmony at home, this is a third reason for the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles. Now, each of these reasons is true. All three are true reasons for the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos. And each of the three reasons adds different aspects and elements to the mitzvah. I don't want to go into full detail about the variant opinions who put forward these three different mitzvahs. There is an argument to be made that perhaps in the early years of Chazal, this was somewhat of a controversy. A Gemara seems to suggest that different Amoraim, Rava and Abaya, may have considered the possibility of different reasons, and throughout the generations, different poskim stressed different aspects of the reasons. But when it comes to practical halachic observance of the mitzvah, we consider all three reasons to be relevant. And each of the three have particular significance. So even though the third reason of Shalom Bias, harmony at home, doesn't attach itself to a core Shabbos halacha, obviously Shalom Bias, harmony at home, is an important value, but it's not intimately, intricately connected, intrinsically connected to Shabbos, unlike the reasons of Kavod and Oneg. Nonetheless, this purely rabbinic reason for the mitzvah lends extra weight to the obligation of lighting Shabbos candles. Now, if someone is, for example, financially struggling, such that they are unable to afford the basics of Shabbos, like Kavod and Oneg Shabbos, extra delicious food on Shabbos and extra clothing on Shabbos, extra smart clothing and the like, they're not obligated to raise tzedakah funds to so do. However, for lighting the Shabbos candles, one is obligated to even raise money and ask for tzedakah help, even though normally perhaps we would ideally avoid asking for charitable help. And the reason for this is the third reason, the importance of shalom, peace and harmony at home. So that adds a dimension to the mitzvah. Were the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles just Kavod and Oneg, parallel to the mitzvah to have good food on Shabbos and wear special clothing on Shabbos and the like, one wouldn't need to appeal for tzedakah funds to help one pay for this. But the third reason, the mitzvah of Shalom Bias, peace and harmony at home, demands one even to appeal to charitable support in order to be able to afford this mitzvah. So that's a nafka, a distinction of the third reason, a halachic dimension added to the mitzvah because of the third reason of Shalom Bias. The other two reasons of Kavod and Oneg, honor and luxuriating, enjoying Shabbos, Kavod and Oneg, also have distinctions between them. Broadly speaking, Oneg Shabbos, the enjoyment of the luxury of Shabbos, is a mitzvah fulfilled on Shabbos itself through almost a state of being, through eating and drinking and enjoying the Shabbos experience, that's how I fulfill the mitzvah. Covered Shabbos, in contrast, needs an active engagement pre-Shabbos. So covered Shabbos, the honor of Shabbos, isn't achieved just by being in a particular situation where one has a beautiful home and is wearing good clothing and enjoys the meals of Shabbos. Covered Shabbos is achieved by acting before Shabbos to prepare for Shabbos. So the Rambam summarizes this, and he says, what's covered Shabbos? How do I show honor to Shabbos? So we already said honoring Shabbos is by giving it, the word kavod means kaved, heavy, giving it a weightiness, treating it as something of substantial significance. So this is achieved by the preparations, the active preparations that one does before Shabbos. The Rambam says one lays the table, one prepares the food for Shabbos, one cleans one's house while it's still at Friday in preparation, one sets, one bedecks the couches with spreads, one lays out the Shabbos room to look like a place fit for Shabbos. This is the way of fulfilling covered Shabbos. How do I fulfill oneg Shabbos, the enjoyment of Shabbos? That's by what I do on Shabbos itself, by eating and drinking special foods, and so on and so forth. So if there was only the mitzvah of oneg Shabbos, I wouldn't necessarily be obligated to light candles, especially for Shabbos. As long as the room is brightly lit, that is enough. I will now enjoy my Shabbos experience because the room is lit up. So oneg Shabbos is enough that on Shabbos, the room is brightly lit. If it was lit long before Shabbos, it happens to be I have a brightly lit house, and the lights, the electric lights or the candles were burning from long before Shabbos, that's enough. I don't need to do an act of lighting Shabbos candles, and oneg Shabbos would still be fulfilled because I will enjoy the light room on Shabbos. However, covered Shabbos, honor of Shabbos, demands me to act before Shabbos to demonstrate my respect and the significance that I grant to Shabbos, and therefore it is covered Shabbos which demands of me lighting candles specifically for Shabbos, doing an action rather than just relying on lights which are already alight. So this is a distinction, a nafkamina between the two reasons. Covered Shabbos demands me to do a specific action of lighting the candles, whereas oneg Shabbos is enough that the house is brightly lit, even if I didn't do a specific action beforehand. And so it goes on. There's many differences between the two reasons. There's a discussion amongst the poskim about two scenarios. Scenario number one is where I forgot to light Shabbos candles before Shabbos. Is there a point in asking a non-Jew to light the candles for me on Shabbos itself? Now, on Shabbos itself, I can't ask them to do this, but if it's before sunset or after sunset during the period when Shabbos hasn't yet started fully because it's still before nightfall, I certainly have to keep Shabbos, but nonetheless, I'm allowed to ask, in this case, perhaps a non-Jew to light candles for me and for the significant mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles. And there's a debate amongst the poskim if there's a point to do so. Now, if the mitzvah is to enjoy the lights which are lighting up the room, then there would be a point in asking the non-Jew to do so. If the mitzvah is the act I have done in preparation for Shabbos, then there would be no point in lighting the candles to someone else near the start of Shabbos. So there's a number of sorts of nuances in halacha between these two different mitzvahs, the nature of these two different mitzvahs, and whether I am obligated to light, and the nature of the obligation of ensuring that I have light on Shabbos. So just to summarize, in the poskim, in the classic sources, we find three reasons for lighting the Shabbos candles. Covered Shabbos, honor of Shabbos, which is achieved by actions taken before Shabbos, like cleaning and preparing the room and laying the Shabbos table, etc. Oneg Shabbos, which is the enjoyment of the Shabbos experience itself, irrespective of whether I took an action, did an action before Shabbos. Both of these reasons are built upon the words of the prophets, Divrei HaNeviim, They're not just a regular rabbinic commandment, but they're really based on the language of the prophets themselves, who say that I should show kavod and experience oneg before and on Shabbos. And finally, Shalom Bias, harmony in the home to avoid hurting oneself and tripping over things in the dark, which is a pure d'Rabbanan, purely rabbinic, but has the unique stringency because of the importance of Shalom, of peace, requiring me to even fundraise and appeal for charitable support if that's the only way I can fulfill the mitzvah. Now, there are two further points to mention. The first point to mention is that lighting Shabbos candles before Shabbos is a very fascinating idea. This is something I've been discussing in my Wednesday night shir, when we've been learning the Malachos of Shabbos, because of course, lighting candles on Shabbos itself would be prohibited. It would be a malacha. It would be one of the 39 prohibited activities on Shabbos. Nonetheless, I'm allowed to do actions before Shabbos, even though that will result in a malacha, a creative outcome occurring on Shabbos itself. So all else being equal, with certain conditions like a blech and the like, I can put raw food on the flame before Shabbos, even though it will cook on the Shabbos, and this is what we've been discussing on Wednesday night. Even though cooking on Shabbos is forbidden, but I can cook before Shabbos, I can put something on the flame before Shabbos, even though it will become cooked on Shabbos itself. Similarly, lighting Shabbos candles. The pasuk says, "Lo savaru eish b'chol mosh v'seichem b'yom haShabbos," which could be translated as, "A flame shouldn't burn on Shabbos. Don't cause lights to burn on Shabbos, flames to burn on Shabbos." But we don't understand its translation that way. We understand it to mean, don't burn, as in don't light, don't do an act of lighting on Shabbos, but I can do an act of lighting before Shabbos, even though that will cause a flame to burn on Shabbos. Now, those who know their Jewish history will know that this was a subject of considerable controversy amongst the Jewish people in the Jewish community for a significant part of our history. Because over the years, there have been various sectarian movements, breakaway movements, who didn't accept the authority of the oral Torah, and therefore translated, or we would say mistranslated the pasuk, to be saying that we can't have lights burning on Shabbos, don't cause lights to burn on Shabbos, rather than don't light on Shabbos itself. And therefore they would sit in the dark on Shabbos, referring here to the Sadokim, the Sadducees, near the end of the second temple era, the second Beis HaMikdash, some of the Karoim, the Karaites in the Middle Ages and early Middle Ages, 700s, 800s, 900s, when they flourished, and a very small group still exists to this day, who understand that one can't sit in the light on Shabbos, one can't have lights burning on Shabbos, because they understand that having lights burning is a problem. But this isn't our viewpoint. We believe that having lights burning on Shabbos is a mitzvah, covered and oneg Shabbos and Shalom Bias. The mitzvah, the prohibition is to light on Shabbos, but to light before Shabbos isn't a problem, even though I'm causing lights to burn on Shabbos. So this is an additional, if you like, aspect of this mitzvah, and perhaps a reason why this mitzvah is of particular significance also. Beyond the enhancement of Shabbos it gives us, it also reflects our allegiance to Torah Shabbat Candles, to the oral Torah, and its interpretation of the Psukim and Halachot, and the idea that we understand that I'm allowed to do actions before Shabbos, even though this will cause the flames to burn on Shabbos itself. There's probably an additional understanding as to why Chazal considered this mitzvah so important, and why they particularly spoke about Shalom Bias as being relevant on Shabbos. I mean, Shalom Bias, peace at home, is always important. So why is it that they attached it to Shabbos and said, ensure you have these Shabbos candles burning, so that there will be Shalom Bias on Shabbos, that there will be peace and harmony in the home on Shabbos. One won't sit in the darkness and hurt oneself and stumble over furniture. And the reason for this is because the concept of Shalom, of peace, is attached to Shabbos. I mean, we know the greeting on Shabbos is Shabbat Shalom, Shalom. Shabbos should be a time of peace. So why is Shabbos particularly associated with peace? And why are the lighting of Shabbos candles to ensure that the room is bright and that one doesn't trip up in the room on Shabbos? Why is this an important aspect of Shabbos? And the answer is that if we were immersed in the darkness, unable to see what we are doing. We would stumble over our furniture. The whole home would appear to be disorganized and chaotic. And then we light the Shabbat candles. And suddenly the home is lit up, it's bright. And I understand how everything has its place. I see the role and function that everything has in serving me. I understand that everything is where it ought to be. And now I'm able to enjoy Shabbos. And this is really what the essence of Shabbos is. We live in a chaotic and complicated universe. For 6 days, we toil in the world, and everything seems confusing. The world seems to consist of opposing forces. There's much light in the world, but there's also darkness. There's troubles, there's afflictions, there's difficulty, there's confusion. I'm pulled in different directions. I'm tempted and distracted and unable to focus. I don't exist in a world of Shalom, a world of peace. But then Shabbos comes, and Shabbos is there to bring peace to the world. On Shabbos, I'm able to step back, and suddenly I see Kisheishes Yomim. For 6 days indeed, I toil. But on Shabbos, I remember my Sevratius. I remember the creation of the world. I remember there's a master of the universe. I step back, Vayinofash. There's an Neshama Yosera, there's an extra spiritual insight that is achieved. And now I understand that everything has its place. Now I understand that the world has an order. It makes sense. It's designed to serve me. It's designed to facilitate my physical and spiritual life in order to allow me to become the best person I can. I realize that everything that operates is in line with Hashgacha, with the divine plan of how Hashem runs the world and the providence that he brings to the situation. And now there's light. The darkness disappears. It's no longer chaos. There's no longer opposition. There's no longer confusion. I'm no longer being pulled in multiple directions. That which distracts me, that which tempts me, I now understand is all part of an ordered universe and a system that's meant to operate in a particular way. I achieve a more profound understanding and insight into how the world operates. I become elevated. I'm able to see things from a perspective above the differences. And when I'm able to see above the differences, I realize that that which previously appeared to be in opposition, that which previously appeared to be fighting and opposing, the forces that were opposing and fighting each other, in truth, are all part of a divine plan leading the world towards, hopefully, the extended Shabbos, which is the era of Mashiach and Olam Haba, the world to come. We refer indeed to Shabbos as Me'ein Olam Haba. It has Me'ein, a taste of a quality of experience which can help us just experience what Olam Haba is, what the world to come is like. So Shabbos is the day when we're able to pause from our material pursuit and our constant toil and running after the necessities for survival, and step back and actually take that deep breath, take that deep moment of breath and awareness of our spirituality, and see the bigger picture, see the world from above, experience the world from the perspective of Olam Haba, of the world to come. When the world has achieved perfection and everything is now in its place, and I understand the destiny and purpose of where life in the universe was meant to be taking us, I see how everything that happens, the good and the bad, the positive and the negative, the difficulties too, are all parts of moving me along in that journey. This is the Me'ein Olam Haba of Shabbos, and this is Shalom, the association of Shabbat, Shalom, of Shabbos with Shalom, of peace, and why therefore Chazal made this unique and beautiful halacha of lighting Shabbos candles for the sake of Shalom Bias, for the sake of peace. We reference this really every day in our tefillah, many times a day. Every tefillah that we say, we conclude with the phrase, Oseh Shalom Bimromov, he, with a capital H, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, who creates peace on high, who Yasa Shalom Aleinu, he should also create peace upon us. We conclude every tefillah with that. In fact, our last mini-series where we looked at benching, this was the very last idea I shared, right at the end of benching, Oseh Shalom Bimromov, right at the end of Amida, Oseh Shalom Bimromov, right at the end of Kaddish, Oseh Shalom Bimromov. Every important tefillah we conclude with a reference to Shalom, to peace, to Shalom. What do we say when we say Oseh Shalom Bimromov? On high, there is peace. Because when we look at things from the perspective of Hashem, from the perspective of Olam Haba, we see that the opposing forces can live together. Fire and water that normally contradict each other can work in harmony and in sync together on high, because they are all part of the divinely given plan. On high, fire and water live together. Here on earth, we see the strife, but we ask that Osa Shalom, remember, he who brings unity and harmony on high should also bring that unity and harmony here on earth, that we should see how the opposing sides, the different forces, really actually reflect a unity, an intrinsic commonality that are there together. And therefore the disparity, the disunity that we experience in the world, in a sense contradicts that which we say about the world, that we live in a world in which Hashem echad, Hashem is one, in which the whole world is a product of unity. We don't see that unity. When there's machlokas, when there's argument, it's not just a problem between myself and another human being, but it's really a problem in my relationship to Hashem, because I don't see the harmony, the uniqueness, the oneness, the monotheism that lies at the heart of the existence of the world. And therefore we daven that it's true now we live in a world of multiplicity, of disunity, of many opposing forces, but we daven by that when Mashiach comes on that day, Hashem should be one and his name should be one. We should recognize the harmony that lies, the oneness that lies at the heart of existence. And therefore this is what Shabbos is about. Shabbos is a day of shalom, it's a day of peace, it's a day when the disunity is meant to come together, and we're able to look at things from the perspective of Bimromov, from on high, and see how everything really is in harmony, everything works together and is part of a pattern. During the week, we live in darkness. We fumble around, we can't see where the furniture is, we fall over, we don't have Shalom Bias. Shabbos, we create in our homes a bubble of Olam Haba, therefore Shabbat Shalom. Shalom is meant to be peace, Shalom Bias is important, and we achieve that by adding light, and therefore bringing a little bit of light to the world. And this is the reason for the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos. It's not just lighting Shabbos candles, but it is bringing peace and really therefore ushering in Shabbos. And this is, I think, why the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos is such a precious mitzvah, why it's such a beloved mitzvah. I think we all sense at the moment of lighting the Shabbos candles that this isn't just an act of lighting Shabbos candles. It's an act at this moment, the peace of Shabbos settles upon us. And it's amazing how the intuition of Klal Yisrael and the Masorah, the tradition that's carried on primarily from mother to daughter, carries with it this shalom, this peace that ushers in, that Shabbos ushers in, which is at the heart of what Hadlokas Nerot is about. The Gemara in Shabbos, by the way, tells us that someone who is conscientious, careful, meticulous about lighting Shabbos candles will merit to have children who are Talmidei Chachamim, who are Torah scholars. Why is this? Because of the idea we've just spoken about. Someone who lights the Shabbos candles isn't just lighting Shabbos candles, but is bringing really the light of Shabbos into the world, the light of Shalom, of peace, of harmony into the world. And therefore, it brings the light of Torah to the world. And therefore, it's appropriate that for lighting Shabbos candles, we connect to Torah. We say at the end of davening on Shabbos that Rav B'nai Shalom, that the Talmidei Chachamim marbim Shalom ba'olam, at their best, hopefully, a true Torah scholar, someone who truly understands and appreciates Torah, brings peace to the world. How do they bring peace to the world? Because as we said, when one looks at things from the perspective of from on high, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from Hashem, one sees the intrinsic harmony that lies at the root of all existence. And therefore, lighting Shabbos candles is linked by the Gemara into the Zechar of bringing Torah and children who are learned in Torah into the world. So this is the mitzvah of Hadlokas Nerot Shabbos. 3 reasons: covered, honor of Shabbos, done before Shabbos; oneg, the pleasure of Shabbos, experienced on Shabbos; and Shalom Bias, harmony in the home through not stumbling in the dark over the furniture. The 3rd reason is in a sense, seemingly the least significant reason. It's pure rabbinic obligation, as opposed to covered and owning Shabbos, which in essence are Torah obligations. Nonetheless, it is this aspect of the mitzvah which in a sense gives the unique qualities of the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles, of bringing shalom and peace and harmony to the world. And this is intrinsically and integrally connected to the concept of Shabbos. Okay, So this is the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neros Shabbos. Now, there is a mistake I made in the title of the shir, because I called the title of the shir Hadlokas Neros Shabbos, the mitzvah of lighting the Shabbos candles. But in truth, this is a mistranslation, because even though we translate the word Ner Shabbos as the Shabbos candles, in fact, the correct translation of the word Ner is a lamp as opposed to candles, and we will see shortly what are the qualities of the light that is to be lit in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neros Shabbos. But it doesn't need to be a candle, and in fact in the past, as per the literal meaning of Neros Shabbos, was the Shabbos lantern or Shabbos lamp as opposed to a candle. What is the requirement of this lamp? Well, it's a whole discussion in the Mishnah, which we recite on Friday night in Shul. The second chapter of Masechet Shabbos extensively discusses what materials can be used for lighting the Shabbos lamps, meaning to say, three aspects, three elements to a lamp. A lamp has a container, it contains in it oil, and then it has a wick. And the Gemara and the Mishnah discuss what qualities are important in the lamp itself, the container of the oil, what qualities are important in the fuel, the oil itself, and what qualities are important in the wick. And the basic summary of this chapter of Mishnah that we read on Friday night is that the wick has to be soft and absorbent in order to draw up the oil well. The oil has to be of a type that is drawn up well, and also not one that creates an unpleasant smell in the room, like a tar or a pitch. And these are the requirements for the Shabbos light. We're worried that if the wick or the oil doesn't burn well, then the flame won't burn well, and the light will flicker or not be bright. And there's a worry that seeing such a light, one will accidentally tilt it or fix it and transgress, obviously, the prohibition of burning fires on Shabbos. And therefore, the wick and the candle have to be of a quality that burns well. And this is why candles is an acceptable equivalent, because a wax candle burns well, and therefore it's a good way of lighting one's Shabbos candles. The Mishnah also says that olive oil is the best way to light Shabbos candles, because it burns well, it's easily drawn into the wick, it creates a clear and pure light, and therefore this is the best material to use. And indeed, some people still have the practice to light the candles using olive oil. However, as far as core halachah is concerned, any material which burns well is fine, and therefore the common practice that many people do is to use, rather than using an oil, is to use a cloth, a candle. There was another mistake in my translation, because I translated the mitzvah as Hadlokas Haneros, the mitzvah to light Shabbos candles. And I did that in the plural, Hadlokas Haneros. However, as far as core halacha is concerned, the mitzvah in truth is really to light just one candle. That's the requirement on Shabbos. As we discussed, is there should be extra light for Shabbos, and one candle is enough to fulfill this mitzvah. Nonetheless, the minhag is to light two candles, minimally, one paralleling Zohar and one paralleling Shomos. As I said at the beginning of our shir, when we did a quick introduction to the Halachot of Shabbos, Shomer refers to the negative, guard Shabbos from destruction, avoid doing melacha on Shabbos. Zohar refers to the positive, positively lights, positively remember and mention Shabbos, primarily fulfilled through Kiddush and Havdalah. And therefore, in memory of Zohar and Shomer, the minhag has become to light two candles rather than one candle, even though the core halacha is to light one candle. There are various minhagim about lighting more candles. Some people light candles for each member of the household. Others have minhagim to light a larger number of candles. In the Hasidic community, some people have the minhag to light 7 candles or 10 candles. And certainly in the past, where homes were dim and not generally lit, the more candles one lit, the more Shabbos was beautified. So if one would have lots of lights around the room rather than just one candle would be the minimum obligation in order to fulfill the 3 reasons we discussed around lighting Shabbos candles. But adding more was a hiddur mitzvah, and therefore you'll find in the poskim, in the classic sources, a concept of adding more and more candles in order to make the room be brightly lit. As we already said, this is a cover to Shabbos, like a brightly lit palace or banqueting suite, to have a very well lit up room. Nonetheless, as far as core halach is concerned, 1 was enough, because this brought some light into the room. And in general, the consensus of poskim is that nowadays there's no halachic advantage, particularly to lighting more candles than the 2 as per the minhag, because we live in homes which are anyway brightly lit due to the prevalence of electricity. So if one comes from a family where there's a particular tradition or minhag to light extra candles, one can do so. But if one doesn't, there's no reason to adopt practices of lighting more and more candles, because anyway, the home is brightly lit, and therefore it doesn't really increase the beauty by lighting more candles. It's sufficient just to light the 2 candles, which parallel Zocher v'Shomer as per the minhag. So these are the first 2 points to mention about the halachas of lighting Shabbos candles. The first is Ner Shabbos. The mitzvah is classically described as a lamp with detailed descriptions about which oils and which wicks to use. But from a halachic point of view, any one which gives a good glow and a good light is enough, both because that's enhancing the mitzvah and we avoid the risk of being tempted on Shabbos to tweak the light and chas v'shalom break Shabbos. And therefore the common minhag is to use candles because these burn well. And the second point is the number. It's enough to light 1 candle, but the minhag is like 2. Some people have the minhag to light far more than that, but there's no need to adopt such a minhag unless you have it in your family, because anyway, our rooms are brightly lit nowadays. Beyond this, where should one light and how much of the home should be lit up? So the core halacha is that the 2 candles that should be lit are lit in the room or the location where one is going to eat. Why are they lit in the location of where one's going to eat? Because the primary mitzvah, the central essence of the mitzvah, is, as we explained, oneg Shabbos and kovod Shabbos. And where is the location of the oneg Shabbos, the pleasure of Shabbos? Where does it take place? As one is eating. And therefore the core mitzvah is to light one's Shabbos candles in a position that will offer some light over the location of where one was eating. And therefore they should be lit, ideally, in the room where one will eat the suda, ideally in a position in which they cast some glow over the eating table where one is going to eat the meal. However, this is the specific takana d'Rabbanan, the specific rabbinic mitzvah that was created to light Shabbos candles where one is going to eat. However, since the mitzvah of Shalom Bias, to avoid tripping over furniture, and kovod Shabbos is to have a well lit up house, it is a mitzvah on Friday to ensure that every room which will be used on Shabbos and in which it is appropriate to have lights should have lights lit. And therefore, one should ensure beyond the direct mitzvah of hadlakas Nerot Shabbos, that all the living rooms in the house are lit up well, the kitchen, the lounge, playroom, whatever other rooms in the house one has where one lives, and obviously not in the sleeping place where it will disturb one's ability to sleep, but rooms where the use of the room is enhanced by light. One should make sure that there will be light in the house in these rooms. And indeed, if one is unable to light in the room where one's going to eat, there's still a mitzvah to light in the other rooms where one is going to live. where one is living, the living room or the lounge or the kitchen, because in all these rooms there's a mitzvah of hadlakas Nerot Shabbos to ensure that the lights brighten the home on Shabbos. So this is the location of where we light. The core mitzvah is to light over the Shabbos table, in the location of the Shabbos table, but a mitzvah also, because of oneg and kovod Shabbos, which takes place there where one eats, and therefore that's where the bracha is made over these lights. Nonetheless, all the other rooms should also have lights in them. They're not specifically legislated for in the mitzvah drabanon of creating lights. However, one should ensure that the room is also lit up. There's no reason to light candles there, and one there will rely on the electric lights in the home. Ideally speaking, one should also make sure that the lights burn until at least the timing of the end of the Friday night meal, and beyond that, that they remain alight until people are ready to go to sleep. Again, nowadays, where we have electric lights, they fulfill this mitzvah, and therefore one should have in mind as one goes around the house on Erev Shabbos, ensuring that the appropriate lights are on for the duration of Shabbos, the electric lights are on. One should have in mind that this is also a fulfillment of the mitzvah of hadlakas Nerot Shabbos, not just lighting the Shabbos candles, but ensuring that all the appropriate rooms are lit up. So this is my extended excuse for my mistranslation of the term in the title of the shir. We commonly refer to these as the mitzvah Shabbat candles. In fact, it's the mitzvah Nerot Shabbat lamps. It's not really in the plural, as far as Kol Halacha is the singular one light. Nonetheless, we really, the fullest fulfillment of the mitzvah is to have all the rooms lit up, and we do the minimal lighting through the candles, and the rest of the lighting we fulfill through electric lights. Who is obligated in the mitzvah? Who has the mitzvah of hadlakas Nerot Shabbos? Everyone, all Jews. It's part of the chiyuvim of Shabbos, part of the obligations of Shabbos. And just like all the mitzvahs of Shabbos apply to everyone, so too the mitzvah of Nerot Shabbos applies to everyone. However, the mitzvah is for the home to be lit up, and therefore for someone to ensure that the home is lit, and therefore one person can do the mitzvah on behalf of the family. And therefore the minhag is that this privilege of this mitzvah is granted to the ladies, to the Baalat Habayis, to the mother or wife of the home, and she is the one who fulfills the mitzvah on behalf of the family, perhaps reflecting the unique responsibility and relationship that ladies have to the mitzvahs of Kovod and Oneg Shabbos, and preparing for Shabbos and ensuring Shalom Bias, etc. But in principle, this is a mitzvah on every individual, married or single, and therefore if one is in a home in which a wife isn't lighting or is unable to light, whether it's because she's away or because one is single or because they are unwell, then this is a mitzvah on whoever is running the home to ensure that the home is alight and fulfills the mitzvah, and therefore this is a mitzvah on all members of Klal Yisrael, all people who are living at home. Some, by the way, I think particularly the Lubavitch community have the minhag that children, girls, are also partake of the mitzvah, but again, this is not Kol Halacha. As far as Kol Halacha is concerned, one person can light on behalf of the family, and where possible and present, the privilege of so doing is granted to ladies. So we'll stop here for today. We've run out of time, and in Mitzvah Hashem, please God, next week we will continue looking at the halachas of Nerot Shabbos, of lighting the Shabbos candles. So I'll stop here, and thank you once again. Thank you to you all for joining this share, and looking forward to seeing you next week when we'll continue the mitzvah of Halachas Nerot Shabbos.